Far away in the dark depths of space, on a planet named Valara, lived a proud and serious people called the Valari. They were tall and graceful with smooth blue skin and bright silver eyes. The Valari were a very logical race. They believed in order, control, and discipline. They had no room in their lives for strange feelings or wild emotions. For them, everything had a reason and a place. Valara was ruled by a wise and strong queen named Nera. Queen Nera had led her people for many years. She was calm, thoughtful, and always made decisions based on facts and careful thinking. To her, emotions were something to control, not to enjoy or celebrate. One thing that the Valari thought was just a myth, a story from old times, was something called the Climax. It was an idea told in ancient legends from other planets, especially humans. The Valari had heard stories of this strange feeling that made body and mind connect in a moment of great joy and power. But they never believed it was real. It sounded too wild, too uncontrolled, too strange for their orderly lives. Queen Nera herself had always thought that the idea of Climax was just a silly story, like fairy tales about dragons or magic. It was not something a queen like her should even consider. But deep inside, a small part of her was curious. One day, news came to Valara that a human explorer was coming to their planet. The humans were known throughout the galaxy as a strange but brave species. They were full of emotions and energy, very different from the calm Valari. The human's name was Tom. He was coming as part of a peaceful mission to learn about new worlds and make friends. The Valari people prepared for the arrival of Tom with great care. They wanted to show their respect, but also keep control. Queen Nera was curious to meet this human. She wanted to see if the stories about humans were true. Would Tom be wild and uncontrolled, or would he have wisdom to share? When the day came, the sky was bright with two suns. Tom's small ship landed smoothly on the silver fields near the city. The Valari greeted him with bows and respectful words. Tom smiled warmly, his eyes full of kindness and excitement. Queen Nera met Tom in the great hall of the palace. She wore a shining blue robe that flowed like water, and her silver eyes looked carefully at the human. Tom was tall and strong, but his face was open and friendly. He spoke softly and with respect. "Welcome to Valara," Queen Nera said. Her voice was calm but kind. "Thank you, Queen Nera," Tom replied with a smile. "I am happy to be here and to learn about your people." As the days passed, Tom explored the city and met many Valari. He was curious about their customs, their art, and their way of life. The Valari, in turn, watched Tom closely. He laughed, joked, and showed emotions freely. This was very new for them. They had learned to hide their feelings and keep calm at all times. Queen Nera found herself thinking about Tom more than she expected. His joy was honest and strong. It was something she did not understand but could not ignore. One evening, Tom told her a story about humans and their feelings. He spoke about many things humans feel: happiness, sadness, love, and also a special feeling called the climax. "It is a moment when body and mind come together," Tom explained. "It is a strong feeling of joy and connection. It can bring two people very close." Queen Nera listened carefully, but still did not believe it could be real. "It sounds like a fairy tale," she said softly. "My people have no such thing." We control our feelings. Tom smiled gently. Maybe it is something your people have forgotten or never tried, but it is real for humans. It helps us understand each other deeply. That night, Queen Nera looked out over the city from her window. The two suns were setting, painting the sky with colors she rarely noticed. She thought about Tom's words and the story she had heard in her youth. Could it be possible that there was more to life than logic and control? Could there be joy and connection that she had never felt before? For the first time in many years, Queen Nera felt a small spark of curiosity, a feeling she could not explain. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the shining towers of Valara. Queen Nera prepared for the day with her usual calm and careful routine. But inside her mind, there was a quiet excitement she had never felt before. The words of Tom, the human, echoed in her thoughts. The strange feeling called Climax, a mystery she could not forget. That day, Tom was invited to the palace for a special meeting. Many Valari leaders gathered to welcome him and learn from his stories. The great hall was tall and bright, with walls made of smooth crystal that shimmered like water. The air was filled with soft music played by Valari musicians, a sound both beautiful and peaceful. Tom stood before the assembly with a humble smile. He spoke slowly and clearly, explaining how humans saw the universe and each other. He told them about the strength found in emotions and the importance of friendship, trust, and kindness. Queen Nera watched closely. She noticed the way Tom's eyes moved as he spoke, full of hope and warmth. His words painted pictures of feelings the Valari rarely showed. After the meeting, Queen Nera approached Tom. "Your stories are strange to us," she said softly. "Our people value order and control. Emotions are often seen as weaknesses." Tom nodded. "I understand. But feelings can be strong and helpful too. They help us connect. Maybe your people have lost something important." Queen Nera looked down, thinking deeply. "Perhaps. But it is hard to change what has lasted for thousands of years." Tom smiled gently. "Change is never easy, but it is also necessary." The days passed, and Tom continued to explore Valara. He walked through the great gardens, where tall silver trees swayed in the gentle wind. He visited the learning halls filled with books and images of stars and history. Everywhere he went, Tom shared small stories about Earth and its people. Queen Nera found herself wanting to learn more from Tom. She invited him to join her for quiet talks in the palace gardens at sunset. These moments became the highlight of her days. One evening, as the two sat beneath a sky full of stars, Tom spoke about the human way of sharing feelings. On Earth, people find comfort in being open. They share their joys and fears. It makes them stronger together. Queen Nera listened, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. "But how do you handle strong feelings? Do they not cause pain?" Tom nodded slowly. "Sometimes, yes, but they also bring great happiness. There is a moment, a special moment when two people feel the deepest joy together. It is called the climax. It is more than a feeling. It is a bond, a moment of trust and connection." Queen Nera felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had never heard such words before. "It sounds powerful," she said quietly. "It is," Tom said. "It is a gift humans share. It helps us understand each other without words." Queen. Nira looked up at the stars, feeling something new and unexplained. Was it curiosity? Hope? She was not sure. Over the next days, Queen Nira observed Tom closely. She noticed how he laughed freely with others and how his eyes shone when he spoke of hope and kindness. She realized that the human way of living with feelings was very different from her people's way. In the Velari world, feelings were often hidden, controlled, or ignored. The idea of sharing deep emotions openly was almost unknown, but Tom's example showed Queen Nira that there might be a different path, a path where feelings and logic could live together. One day, as Tom helped the palace gardeners plant new silver flowers, Queen Nira approached him quietly. "Tom," she said, "I want to understand more, not just from words, but from experience. Can you help me?" Tom looked surprised but smiled warmly. "I will, but only if you want to." Queen Nira nodded. "I do." That night, in her private chambers, Queen Nira thought about the journey ahead. She knew it would not be easy. Her people might not accept her interest in these strange human feelings. But for the first time, she was ready to explore something new. The next morning, she met Tom again, ready to learn more about the feelings that humans treasured so much. Together, they would begin a journey that would change both their worlds forever. The days turned into weeks, and Tom and Queen Nira spent more time together. Each meeting was filled with quiet talks, walks in the palace gardens, and moments of simple friendship. But slowly, something deeper began to grow between them, a connection that neither expected. Queen Nira had never shared such moments with anyone before. Her people respected her, but no one truly knew the feelings she kept inside. Tom's openness and kindness made her feel safe. She began to trust him more than anyone else in her life. One afternoon, Tom invited Nira to a quiet place far from the palace, a small hill overlooking the city. The silver trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the two sat down together. "Queen." "Nira," Tom said softly, "I want to tell you more about human feelings, not just stories, but what it means to share yourself with another person." Nira looked at him, curious and a little unsure. "I want to understand," she said. Tom smiled. "For humans, feelings are like rivers, sometimes calm, sometimes wild. We learn to flow with them, to let them take us to new places." Nira thought about this. The Velari preferred clear lakes, still and calm, without waves or storms. But maybe, she thought, a river had its own beauty. Tom reached out and gently took her hand. The touch was soft but warm. Nira felt a small thrill, a sensation she had never felt before. Her heart beat faster, and for a moment all her doubts seemed to disappear. "Feelings are not to be feared," Tom said. "They help us connect and grow." Nira looked into his eyes. For the first time, she saw not only a human but a friend, someone who accepted her as she was. The days that followed were full of new experiences. Tom taught Nira simple ways to express her feelings: a smile, a laugh, a touch on the arm. These small acts brought a new light to her life. One evening, as they watched the two suns set behind the mountains, Nira asked, "Tom, what is this climax you spoke of before? Can you explain it again?" Tom smiled gently. "It is a moment when two people feel complete happiness together. It is a mix of body and mind, trust, joy, and connection all at once. It is special because it shows how close people can be. Nira thought about this. In Velari culture, such closeness was rare. People kept their distance, both physically and emotionally. But the idea of a moment so powerful, so real, called to her. "Can a person have this feeling alone?" she asked. Tom shook his head. "It is something shared. It needs trust and respect between two people." Nira looked at Tom again. She wondered if she could ever feel this with him. Their friendship grew stronger, but not everyone in the palace approved. Some Velari whispered behind closed doors. They saw Queen Nira's interest in human feelings as strange and dangerous. One day, a trusted advisor approached Nira quietly. "Your Majesty," he said, "these feelings you explore could weaken your rule. The Velari people expect strength and control. They may not understand." Nira listened carefully, but did not answer. Inside, she felt torn. She knew her people valued order, but she also knew that she was discovering something new. Something that made her feel alive. That evening, she confided in Tom. "Some say I should stop. That my people will not accept this change." Tom took her hands gently. "Change is hard, but sometimes it is necessary. You are brave, Nira. You can lead your people to something better." Nira looked into his eyes and saw honesty and care. For the first time, she felt hope. Hope that she could be true to herself and still be a good leader. As the days passed, Nira and Tom shared more moments of trust. They talked about their fears and dreams, about the future of their peoples. 1. Night under the stars, Nira asked, "Tom, will you teach me how to truly feel? Not just with my mind, but with my heart?" Tom smiled warmly. "I will, but it must be your choice." Nira nodded. She was ready to learn. Their connection was no longer just friendship. It was becoming something deeper, a bond that neither logic nor fear could stop. In this moment, Queen Nira realized that the myth of the climax was not just a story. It was a real, powerful experience waiting to be discovered, and she was ready to take the first step. The moon rose slowly over the planet Valara, casting soft silver light over the quiet palace gardens. Queen Nira stood by the tall crystal fountain, her heart beating in a way she had never felt before. The feelings inside her were new, strange, exciting, and a little frightening. Tom was waiting for her near the flowers that glowed faintly under the moonlight. His eyes were kind, full of patience and understanding. He smiled gently when he saw her. "Nira," he said softly, "are you ready?" She nodded, though her voice felt small. "I want to understand. I want to feel." Tom took her hand again, and this time their fingers touched with a warmth that spread through her body. It was different from anything she had known. Not cold logic, not careful thought, but something alive. They sat down on the soft grass, and Tom spoke in a calm voice. "This moment is about trust. Trust in yourself, and trust in me, Queen." Nira looked into his eyes, seeing no judgment, only care. She felt a deep breath rise inside her, slow and steady. "Let go of your fears," Tom whispered. "There is no rush. Just be here." The stars shone bright above them as Tom gently, guided her through the feelings he had told her about before. He explained how the body and mind could work together to create joy and connection. Nira closed her eyes and focused on the warmth in her hand, the softness of the grass, and the calm, steady voice of Tom. Slowly, she let her thoughts drift away. The strict control she always kept began to loosen. She felt her heart open, and with it came a wave of lightness, a rush of happiness she had never known. It was like the first breeze after a long winter, fresh and free. Tom smiled, encouraging her to keep going. He spoke softly about the power of connection, about how two beings could share their feelings and become stronger. For Nira, it was a new world, a world without fear or control, where emotions could flow like water, clear and bright. Suddenly, a small sound broke the silence, a whisper of the wind in the trees. Nira opened her eyes and saw Tom's face close to hers, full of warmth and kindness. In that moment, something deep inside her stirred. It was not just the feelings Tom had described, but a truth she could no longer deny. She felt alive in a way that words could not explain. They sat close together, sharing the silence, their hands still joined. Queen Nira felt a deep trust growing, stronger than she had ever imagined. As the night deepened, Tom leaned in gently. His touch was soft, respectful, a promise of care and understanding. Nira's breath caught, but she did not pull away. She allowed herself to be present, to feel the moment fully. This was the moment the Valari had called a myth, the climax. A moment of deep connection, of shared joy between two beings. For Queen Nira, it was real. The experience filled her with light and warmth, breaking down the walls she had built around her heart. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, Nira and Tom remained close, their bond stronger than ever. The next day, Queen Nira walked through the palace halls with a new sense of calm and happiness. The secret she carried inside her made her feel powerful, not because of control, but because of trust and connection. But she also knew that not everyone would understand. The Valari were a people of logic and order. To many, her new feelings would seem strange, even dangerous. That afternoon, her advisor came to speak with her again. "Your Majesty," he said cautiously, "there are whispers in the court. Some fear that your interest in these feelings may harm your rule." Nira looked at him steadily. "I am the queen. I will lead my people with both strength and heart." The advisor nodded, but his eyes showed worry. Queen Nira knew the path ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, questions, and perhaps even opposition. But she was no longer afraid, because she had found something precious, a truth that could change her life and the lives of her people. That night, as she looked out over the city from her chamber window, Queen Nira smiled softly. She was ready to explore this new world, not just for herself, but for the future of Valara. The palace was quiet, but inside Queen Nira's mind, a storm was growing. Her new feelings, the warmth and light she had discovered with Tom, challenged everything she had ever known. The world of order and control she had built around herself now felt fragile. Some of the Valari court began to notice the change. Whispers floated through the halls, questions about the Queen's unusual behavior, her late-night walks in the gardens, and the strange light in her eyes. One afternoon, during a meeting with her advisors, Nira spoke with calm but firm voice. "My people must learn more than logic. We must learn to feel and connect." The room fell silent. An elder advisor stood and said, "Your Majesty, feelings can be dangerous. They can weaken our strength. We have always been proud because we control ourselves." Nira looked at the faces before her. Strength is not only control, it is also trust, courage, and understanding. Some nodded slowly, but others looked doubtful. That evening, Nira went to find Tom. She needed his support more than ever. Tom welcomed her with a gentle smile. "How do you feel, Nira?" "Confused," she admitted. "My people are afraid of what I have learned. They fear change." Tom took her hand. "Fear is natural, but you are not alone. I am here." Nira felt comfort in his words. With Tom by her side, she felt stronger. Over the next days, Nira decided to share her new feelings with a few trusted friends among the Valari. She invited them to the palace gardens and told them about her experiences with Tom, the warmth, the joy, the connection she had discovered. At first, many were unsure, but slowly some began to understand. They saw the light in Nira's eyes and the peace in her heart. One friend, a young scholar named Laura, spoke quietly. "Queen, I have spent my life studying the stars and the mind, but I never understood the power of the heart. Your courage shows us a new path." Nira smiled. "This path is not easy. It asks us to be brave in a new way." As the group grew, Nira felt hope. Perhaps the Valari could learn to balance logic and feeling, but not all were ready. One night, a group of traditional leaders met in secret. They feared that the Queen's new ideas would weaken Valara and invite danger. "We must remind the Queen of her duty," one said. "We cannot allow emotions to rule." They planned to speak to Nira at the next council meeting. The day of the council came, and tension filled the great hall. Queen Nira stood tall and faced the assembly. "I bring a new message," she said clearly. "Our people have long lived by logic and control, but we must also embrace trust and connection. This is the future of Valara." Voices rose in disagreement. "This is not our way." "Feelings are weakness. The Queen must remember her role." Nira listened without anger. When the room grew quiet, she spoke again. "I am your Queen. I will protect Valara with all my strength. Strength that comes from both mind and heart." Her words were strong, filled with truth and courage. Some leaders bowed their heads in respect. Others remained silent, uncertain. After the meeting, Nira returned to her chambers feeling tired but determined. Tom was there, waiting. He took her hands and said, "You have done well. Change takes time, but you have started it." Nira nodded. "I will not stop. Valara deserves more than fear and control." That night, as the two sat together under the stars, Nira felt a new kind of peace. The barriers around her heart were breaking, and she was ready to lead her people into a brighter future. The days after the council meeting were full of change. Queen Nira's words had reached the hearts of many Valari, but fear still lingered in the shadows. The Queen knew her people needed time to understand the new path she offered, one where logic and feeling walked together. Tom stayed by her side, helping her carry the weight of leadership. He shared stories of Earth, where people lived with many emotions, but still built strong communities. One morning, Nira called a gathering in the palace gardens. The air was cool, and silver leaves rustled softly as the Valari assembled. Nira stood before them calm and confident. "My people," she began, "I have learned something new. Feelings are not a weakness. They are a gift. They help us see the world in ways the mind alone cannot." She told them of her own journey, the fear, the courage, and the warmth she had found with Tom. The Valari listened closely. Laura, the young scholar, stepped forward. "Queen, your courage shows us that we can grow. We can learn to balance reason and emotion. Together, we can be stronger." Nira smiled. "Yes, Laura, we will build a new Valara, one where every voice is heard, where every feeling has a place." Slowly, the Valari began to share their own stories. They spoke of times they felt joy, sadness, hope, and fear. For the first time, emotions filled the gardens like a gentle breeze. As the days passed, the walls of silence and control began to fall. Valari learned to laugh freely, to show kindness openly, and to trust each other more deeply. Queen Nira felt a deep happiness she had never known. The connection she shared with Tom had opened her heart, and now she saw the same light in her people. One evening, as the two sat together by the fountain, Nira spoke quietly. "Tom, I want to thank you. You have helped me find a part of myself I never knew." Tom smiled. "You found it yourself, Nira. I only showed you the way." Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. The trust between them was real and deep, a connection of heart and mind. News of Valara's new path spread beyond the planet. Other worlds heard of the Valari's courage to change, to embrace feelings and connection. Some were inspired, others skeptical. But Queen Nira did not worry. She knew the future was bright. The Valari had learned a powerful lesson, that strength came not just from control, but from trust, kindness, and love. And with this new understanding, they stepped forward, ready to face the stars together. The planet Valara shone brightly in the night sky, its silver towers glowing softly under the twin moons. The people of Valara had begun to change, slowly but surely. The lessons of trust, emotion, and connection that Queen Nira shared were taking root in their hearts. Queen Nira stood on the balcony of her palace, looking out at her city. The streets below were alive with laughter and light. Children played freely, their voices filling the air. Adults smiled more openly, greeting one another with warmth. Beside her stood Tom, the human who had brought new ideas to Valara and to Nira's heart. "Look how much your people have grown," Tom said softly. Nira nodded. "It is more than I hoped for, but there is still work to do." Tom smiled. "Change is a journey, not a destination. You have started something wonderful." In the months since the first council meeting, the Valari had opened their minds and hearts. They began to practice sharing feelings without fear, learning that strength and emotion could live together. Queen Nira had become more than a ruler. She was a symbol of hope and courage. One day, ambassadors from other planets arrived on Valara. They came to learn from the Valari and their queen. The news of Valara's new way had spread through the galaxy. The ambassadors were curious and respectful. They asked questions about how the Valari balanced logic and emotion. Queen Nera and Tom spoke together, sharing their story of friendship, trust, and discovery. The visitors left inspired, carrying the message of Valara to their own worlds. Back in the palace, Nera and Tom often talked about the future. "Do you think the Valari will fully accept these changes?" Tom asked one evening. Nera smiled thoughtfully. "Some will, some will not. But the seed is planted. That is enough." She took Tom's hand. "Together, we have shown that two very different worlds can learn from each other." Tom squeezed her hand gently. And that is the true power of connection. Their bond had grown beyond words, beyond cultures. It was a bridge between worlds. As the seasons changed, Valara's society became stronger and more vibrant. People built new traditions that honored both the mind and the heart. Art, music, and laughter filled the cities. Queen Nera often walked among her people, seeing their joy and peace. She knew that the journey was not over, but the path was clear. One evening, under the twin moons, Nera and Tom stood together in the palace gardens. "I have learned so much," Nera said softly. "Not only about feelings, but about courage, trust, and friendship." Tom nodded. "And I have learned from you about strength, wisdom, and hope." They looked up at the stars, dreaming of the future, a future where different worlds could come together in peace and understanding, a future where the myth of the climax was not just a story, but a symbol of what was possible when hearts and minds joined. Queen Nera smiled. She had once thought the climax was a myth, a legend too wild for her people. But now she knew it was real, and it had changed everything. The story of Queen Nera and Tom was just the beginning. Together, humans and Valari would face the stars, united by trust, respect, and the power of connection.